I've noted some key points from your presentation. First is the COVID-19 shock on services. And second, how the pandemic has triggered services sector becoming more digitally delivered, hence become more resilient in this time of pandemic. I would like to know, how do you see the challenges for the services sectors going forward?
Yeah, thank you. I think that the services pick up the pace of the evolution themselves. So that becomes more and more increasingly mobile, and also help other industries to globalize too. So I think a possible bottleneck in policies is the regulatory framework over there. So one side is a sort of responsive regulation. Still, we are working on, say, liberalization, or on the other side of the coin, some sort of infant industry protection on services. So we should not impose unnecessary barriers over there. That's a sort of responsive regulation. At the same time, we have some proactive regulation over there, because digital technology is coming in. So data issues are going to be more important in connection with the services. So overall policy environment for free flow of data with trust, whatever the expression, I think that is going to be very important in services too. So actually, the policy framework could be a little bit more complicated here, because we have at least 4 kinds of policies over there. One is a relatively simplistic liberalization facilitation. So that, say, one example is say electrical signature, for example, or extension of the WTO moratorium on e-commerce taxation. The second is to cancel out market failure. That is going to be more serious in data-related things. So competition policy, certainly that's one of them, and also consumer protection, because we have a sort of asymmetric information over there, and also IPR protection, because so data and information are easy to leak actually, easy to be leaking. The third is the policies to reconcile values or social concerns with economic efficiency. Certainly, trade policy is talking about economic efficiency, but we have other values like privacy protection, cybersecurity. So these are, of course, we have to take care of that. The last one, fourth, policies to accommodate data flows and data-related businesses. Now, the taxation is a big issue over there, and also the regulatory framework for e-payments and fintech, maybe cryptocurrency. Those are also very important, and people are worrying about, say, the abuse of artificial intelligence, for example. So those are the sort of fourth kind. So we have liberalization and facilitation. That's one. And then policies to cancel out market failure. Third, policies to reconcile other values. The last one, policies to accommodate data-related businesses. I think we have a sort of big structure of policies over there. So that's a sort of proactive regulation. So those both are very important, but certainly policies are so complicated. Complicated in economics too, actually. And also looking at the sort of government agencies, many agencies are taking care of that, not quite in a kind of really harmonized manner sometimes. So I think that's very important to take care of policies. Now businesses are going on and very actively. We don't need to worry about that. So policies should help them flourish. That could be a sort of a possible bottleneck, a big challenge that we are facing.
So the policy design would certainly be different between the least developed economies and the more developed economies, because the state of the services sector might be different in those economies. So in your presentation, you also mentioned about the need to have the policy for giant platforms. Can you elaborate more on that? What do you think the policy design should be in order to increase digital transformation of services?
Yeah, certainly that would be a big concern, not only for newly developing economies, but also in the developed economies too. But they are very creative and giving very interesting services. And so I think the benefits of platform users are huge. So policymakers are sometimes worrying about the domestic service providers too much. Certainly, we like to have the development of domestic service providers, but we have to keep some good competition over there, rather than just block big platformers and not coming into that. I think that kind of a balance is very important, and also should not be too selective. If we just have one big platform, then there's no competition. But if we have multiple, then we may generate some competition too. And then two key areas for policies, right? One is competition policy, the other is a taxation. So for competition policy, now a big debate is going on both in the US and China. So we have to see very carefully that what would be the conclusion. But it's true that big platforms are generating so-called network externalities. This is a kind of scale economy. If they have many large customers and they can collect more data, then that would increase their productivity. That itself is not really bad because they're utilizing the benefits of network externalities. Bad thing is that positive abuse of market power. If they use that kind of market power and then exploit people, and that's not good. And also, they are having various kinds of contract with small business partners, and then they would have a sort of dominant position to get disadvantageous contracts for small businesses. Those are bad. So what we really have to be careful is not that they are big, but that because they are big, they are bad. That's not really a sort of a good logic. Logic is that if they abuse the market power, then we have to use competition policy. So I think that's one thing that we really have to go with that. The taxation issues, so particularly the big debate on digital tax now. And now the discussion in OECD is advanced to some extent. And also some countries are already introducing to some extent, say maybe thinking of an introduction. Actually, I'm a trade economist. I trained as a trade economist. So I had some psychological resistance at the beginning to introduce taxation on sales, because corporate tax should be imposed at the beginning of the production of goods or services. And that's a basics. Otherwise, you see, taxation on sales is just like tariffs, actually. And particularly that would be applied to a sort of discriminatory manner only for big platformers, not the small platformers in other businesses. So I had some psychological resistance at the beginning, but I changed my mind these days. And now if we can have some reasonable compromise by introducing digital tax in a kind of internationally harmonized manner, I think we should accept that. So not just like they are rich, so let's get money from them. Okay? So that's one temptation, of course, but we have to be fair and we have to have a sort of a balanced view on those kind of services. I think their services are very, very important for people's daily life and potentially very good for small businesses too. So we have to have a sort of reasonable policy in terms of a sort of taxation.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more that we need to have a conducive regulatory environment, whether it is relating to taxation or competition policies or consumer protection or data governance. However, due to the tight timing, can you just, as the closing remarks, what do you think the initiative that needs to take place and be included in the next G20 meeting?
Yeah, I think policy makers must realize that the role of services sector for economic development has drastically changed, particularly in newly developed and developing economies. So we have to have some positive attitude for, and particularly utilizing digital technology to seek for opportunities for catching up and leapfrogging. Actually, so we have a bunch of very important initiatives going on in the WTO, particularly in the context of so-called JSI, Joint Statement Initiative. I think domestic regulation on services, we may have some progress in coming ministerial meeting. We have to support that. And also data or e-commerce initiative are going very slowly, but that is very important too. And also WTO is working on trade and health issues. They're emphasizing both essential goods and also essential services. I think it's very important for G20 to support those a series of initiatives working in WTO.
Thank you very much, Professor Kimura.